Hello Hambini fans and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. Now, let me take you back in time. Look at that, that is her. This is the rare brace that was on there. There's a total lack of penetration. This is the, look at that, that is. So, fast forward to today and Bowman, bowel disease, are back with this. So, the guy reached out to me and he sent this frame in. He said he wanted it checking and he couldn't find anyone else more appropriate than me to have a look. Now, the first thing you notice when you get this out is it is steel. Steel is considerably easier than aluminium to weld. And the fork, which is in the box, is carbon. So normally we denounce any bike product as being completely utter fucking shite. And the last bowel disease that we had on here was indeed that. But this is considerably better. So, start off with the frame. It is steel and I think it was Reynolds 853. So it's steel tubing and it has been oxide dipped, primed, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it's just a rust coating, rust preventative coating that has been applied to the inside. Now, when you do pick it up, the first thing you notice is it is quite heavy. And that is a decision that the owner of the brand, the original owner, no longer owns it and the IP was sold off, but we'll come on to that later, decided to do, I guess, because he was pretty peeved at the state of the aluminium welding. The fork over here is carbon and there's not really a lot to say about that. It's just an interesting combination, carbon fork with a steel frame. Let's start off in here. So we have got steel wells round here. It's been mitered and on the inside it is extremely clean. There's none of that spatter or anything like that. If there was, they've cleaned it up. The headset is one of those push-in affairs, so you'd have to add like a cup onto there before the bearing would go in, because it's basically just been splayed outwards and then the headset cup would go in on that side. Welding on there, very, very clean. Absolutely nothing I can say about it. And the paint is also very, very clean. This is the lower headset. And again, we'd have to put a cup into there to facilitate the next bearing or the bearing assembly. I haven't measured this accurately because the chap didn't want it, so I haven't done it. But visually it looks clean, and to the naked eye, it does look round. Couple of things, this face isn't a surface where the bearing would touch. So theoretically, you don't have to face it, but the interfacing cup does go on there, so it does need a realm of flatness. Best practice would probably be to face it, but if you do face it with steel, you'll probably lead to some corrosion problems, especially on the lower bearing, because that's where it will collect. This is the miter joint. This frame, in the box on it, says Bowman Cycles Sheffield, the steel city of Sheffield, England, but it also says made in Taiwan. So that's where this has come from. So it's an exercise in manufacturing in the Far East. This is all very cleanly mitered. Even the welds on here, which are where the cables come through, are all very, very neat. Now, the guy did say this was a sample frame, but you would hope that if you did get a frame, it will be like this one. This is the cable entry on the other side. Again, very, very clean. This is a T47 bottom bracket. You can see the black oxide inside as well. So it must have been dipped or whatever after the welding event, machining event. So that's a good sign. You'd be surprised at the number of people who don't do that. This really needs to be faced. So it is a surface that the bearing cup of the bottom bracket interfaces with, so it needs flattening. This is, I guess, the boss hole where Di2 wiring would come through. This frame is not braze on, so you'd have to put a band on front mech clamp, which in itself, some people actually prefer those because you can then fit whatever size chainring you want, even if it's just a 1X. Now, one of my colleagues said out of all the welds on here, and he was really scraping the barrel, he thought this one might have a slight lack of pen. It's not, you know, compared to some of the things we've seen on here, we're really scraping the barrel, and it's only partial. It's just because of the nick on there. But on the whole, no real issues with that. The other welds passed the visual okay. To get a true result, you need to cut them. One of the Achilles heels of the original Bowman Palace was the geometry, as in none of the tubes actually lined up. No problems on this one, they're all perfect, especially the central stabilizing one further down. So these are the rear brake mounts, and if I was really scraping, these would really need to be faced because a bit of the paint has come up, so it's probably difficult to see on camera, but if I run my finger across it, just hear the chip on the end, so the paint's slightly proud of the seat, so it needs facing. This is the rear dropout where the through axle goes through. Again, it looks all very clean. Under there, it needs facing again. Now, the problem with the steel frame is as soon as you face it, you run the risk of corrosion, because if we take the brake mount as an example, if you face that and then take the edge off it, you've then got no protection, so it will start to corrode, especially if you live in, you know, northern England. If you live in Australia or somewhere warm, no problem. Or if you just ride in the warmth in summer, again, no problem. So you've got to draw the line there between facing or not facing versus your alignment. Intersection between the seat tube, the top tube and the stays, and here is fairly difficult to weld because you've got quite a lot of intricate shapes and you're having to move your welding apparatus around in order to get into the tight angles. It is very cleanly done. I think that may be TIGged. These are the brake mounts from the bottom. This is very, very tricky to do because you've got a thin section and fairly elaborate shape. So you need to make sure that all of this stuff stays in one place as you apply it. So whoever's done it has probably preheated this to stop it blowing out or to probably stop it going brittle. This is the fork, which is carbon. Looking over it, there's nothing really special about this. It just looks like any other sort of generic fork from the Far East. There's nothing much wrong with it either. And on the scale of being well manufactured or not, the tube for the fork steerer is round and it is fairly concentric, so that's okay. These are the brake mounts, and I think these are aluminium. I mean, I haven't checked. Again, we've got this issue here where the paint overspray has caused a bit of a lip, so that would need facing. That definitely would need facing because that's a way bigger lip than the other side. It's not a huge issue. You could just do it with sandpaper and a file, and if it's aluminium, I wouldn't be too worried about it corroding all that much. Right, it is that time of the show again. It is time to see if the pen is working. And it is. Bowman Cycles, the guy buys the brand whilst drunk. So keep hanging on until the end of this video and you'll see what that's all about. By Hambini H5, you can hook me up on hambini.com, youtube.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook as HambiniEng. And Patreon, which does help the channel quite considerably. Right, bit of background. So I'm really going to talk about what happened before. So Bowman, this was their previous Instagram page. So this is from a couple of years ago. It's not there anymore. It is a completely different entity, the new one to the old one, which we'll come to. So Bowman Bicycles, they were established in 2014 and their company name was BB Velo Limited. Limited, bold there because it's limited liability because of the actions that would since happen after that. Neil Webb was the founder, head of the production, you know, just head honcho, whatever his name is. And I did actually approach him for comment. at the time, and he was not available for legal reasons. This is BB Velo, so they went bust. And in amongst that, we had a load of people on various forums. I mean, I've just picked Road CC as an example. And there was, complaints of supply problems. There was other things where people said, the bikes come with fake wheels, is it fraud, etc., etc., yawn. And I should point out that Neil was an ex-journalist, as I am kind of like a journalist now. But if we come on to the mechanical problems, because you're probably not interested in that. I mean, there's a few pictures that some of the people sent in to me. So there's a picture of the bottle holder bolts. And this is zoomed in. If you have a look at that one, that looks like it's horizontal across the page. And look at the one below, you can see that is at a pretty sharpish angle. Then chainstay failure was quite common. And then there was just a general lack of care. So, I mean, look at this. It's a metal frame and all the swarf that's behind. So they've drilled through it with probably a twist drill and not bothered to ream the hole or suck all the gunge out. More alignment issues. So this is the back where the chainstays go in. So the chainstays look like they're horizontal and the brace across it is just basically on the piss. Then, weld defects, there was loads of these. Yeah, and just, I mean, look at that one, look at that one. And then this, when you actually zoom in, if you look carefully, it's just appalling. So this is the head tube from, I'm going to say again, the previous Bowman. The new Bowman is not like this, and you've kind of like seen that. You zoom in, I mean, look at the difference in the wall thickness. First of all, I mean, it looks like it looks like it's been chamfered by a rasp. I think I'm being kind when I say it's been chamfered by a rasp, but look at the wall thickness. I mean, even to the naked eye, you don't need a vernier or anything like that to see that it's not centered. These days, if it's not centered, you're going to run into some sort of issue somewhere, whether bearings fail or you end up with fatigue somewhere. I mean, in the immediate aftermath of this, you'll probably not get an issue, but it's just appalling. You're paying money for it and then you get this. And this is what happened when I chopped it up. So a guy called Andy sent his frame in, and I think he subsequently went after Neil, because this was really an accident waiting to happen. I mean, the welding on it was appalling. This may not be so clear on here, but there's a lack of pen. And that was just probably one of the nice things in it. I mean, I'll link to a video so you can see what happened before. Now, if we go forward, jump forward to Bowman 2025, it is under completely new ownership. So a guy called Jim owns it. And you've seen the frame manufacturing. And I would say, that is really me clutching at straws. That was a very good frame. Whether it's a YouTube special or not, it might be, but my gut feel is it probably isn't, because he's gone to quite extreme lengths, I would say, to ensure that he's not known for poor quality. There's a few materials involved, so steel, carbon fiber, and I think this is important because the guy that's running it is not doing it as his primary job. So he's a bit like me, really, because he's got a day job doing something else. And I think that will generally result in you getting a better product because it's someone's name on the chopping block. So if Hambini's bottom brackets are garbage, Hambini's professional engineering opinion gets tarnished. And that is something I don't really like. So that's why you get decent quality. Yes, there are all these morons on weight weenies, but I'll address them later on. Some of the comments they come up with are hilarious. Right. So this is the Bowman 2025 website. So it is, the outlet for Bowman. They've got, I mean, the key market for Jim, who you're about to see, is selling frames, and that's what he's got to do. So here he is riding his bike along with some nice trendy shots, and he also sells some clothing, some other bits in here about geometry, steel and aluminium frame sets. You know, I encourage you to read that. But after this, Jim actually invited me to have a little interview with him, and I couldn't really turn him down. He's not far from where I live. So let's play that. Hello Hambini fans, and welcome to the steel city of Sheffield, England. Right then, Hambini fans, hell hasn't frozen over, but I'm here with James from Bowman, or bowel disease is another one. Sorry. Right, shall I go through the questions?
Yes, go for it. Do it.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
I am from Sheffield, live close to the Peak District. I am an architect by trade. I'm an ex-fell runner, and now I'm a cyclist, and I'm forever fighting the weight gain. Kids, usual, family, and that's it. That's basically me.
Right, let's get on to the saucy bits.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Hambini reaming of the Bowman?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of it? Did you think it was unfair?
It was informative. No, I don't think it was unfair. That was just before I took over the company, I hasten to add. It was informative, and it was a lesson learnt.
Okay.
So I did watch it, yeah. Some of the comments were valid, but I will caveat that I was nothing to do with that company at the time.
Okay. Right. Why did you buy Bowman?
So I had a Bowman Palace R, which was a really good bike, and I enjoyed it.
Did it break?
No, it didn't.
Did you check the welds afterwards?
Yes, I did. And I wanted a disc version because that was a rim. And I was sat with a good mate who had been in the cycle industry for a long time in the pub, and I said I wanted a Bowman disc. And we were looking at the website, we were looking at on Instagram, we were looking on Facebook, and there'd been a lot of radio silence, so there was nothing, there was no post for months, and he basically said they've gone pop, they've gone bust. Anyway, 2 or 3 days later, he got in touch with me and he said, if you want some of these frames, they're on BidSpotter. So I bought a wheeled and a Palace. Anyway, I didn't end up building them up, but while I was there, while I was bidding and buying them, the guy from the loss adjuster said, would you be interested in buying the intellectual property rights? So I said, no.
Okay.
And then he said, and then I said, well, go on then, how much? And he mentioned a figure, and I said, there's no way I'm paying that figure. So he said, what would you pay? So I mentioned a figure which was a lot lower than he'd mentioned. And he said, well, if you put a formal bid in an email, send it to me, and they can only say no. So I was in the pub on a Sunday night, and we'd had 2 or 3 drinks, and my mate, who was involved in the cycling industry for a long time, he basically said, just do it. So I did it. So I built a bicycle company when I was
pissed.
A little bit pissed, basically.
There you go.
So there you go. And then the realisation comes in of what am I going to do with this? So,
and that brings me on to this question. So what are your plans for the future? So Bowman's plans for the future?
So the overall plan is not to get hammered by yourself too much. We have a website that's getting rebuilt as we speak. We've got some nice steel. We've got some 853. We've got some 931. There should be some Columbus steel samples coming out. I think people will be pleased to know that I'm not entirely sure if aluminium's the right way. So it may be just steel and titanium. And there we are. And some clothes as well.
Clothing? What sort of clothing? Princess blankets?
Princess blankets, mostly Disney stuff, yeah.
I don't think you can say that.
Oh, can I not? Other brands are available.
All right. Do you want to do the outro?
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, thank you.
And as always,
keep banging your hairdresser.